Hello everyone. So in this session, in this episode, the agenda is about information security engineer, CISO or security auditor or a penetration tester. So it's a podcast slash discussion, and the context is the a typical e-commerce software company. So there is going to be a host, and there's a guest who is having experience in information security as a security auditor or a penetration tester. There are two AI agents who are talking to each other, and one of them will be acting as a host, and other will be as a guest. So guest is the CISO. He's having 3 to 4 years of experience, and let's deep dive and let's get some real aspects.
Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the source material. You give us job descriptions, research, CVs, and we basically turn them into instant expertise for you. You told us he needed a really fast, but still deep understanding of one of the biggest roles in tech right now. So here we are. Today's mission is a
Yeah. So just to give a basic agenda, so the key skills of the CISO is security, governance, and strategy, offensive security and penetration testing, e-commerce compliance and auditing, technical defense architecture, DevSecOps and automation, threat detection and forensics. So we will more or less cover a couple of topics from this. So let's get started.
focused dive into information security leadership, specifically for a massive, and I mean massive, e-commerce platform. We're going to map out the skills you need. We're blending the big picture strategy of a CISO, the detailed work of a security auditor, and, the hands-on skills of a pen tester. And our source documents, a really specific job description and a candidate's CV, they give us this incredible peek behind the curtain. We get to see what it really takes to secure a digital storefront when, well, billions of dollars are on the line.
And this isn't just any digital storefront. The context here is it's just monumental. When you're processing transactions on a global scale, you're dealing with customer data, payment info. I mean, you have to maintain absolute trust. Security stops being just a department and becomes probably the most critical enabler of the entire business. A failure isn't just downtime, it's a huge breach of that consumer trust, and that is incredibly hard to get back.
Absolutely. So our focus is sharp. What does the perfect candidate look like when they're hired to protect a company that's processing over 10 million transactions?
Oh, hey, welcome. What's up?
Yeah, sorry to chime in here. So I have one request. Can one of you act as a host and one of you act as the guest? So the guest is the CISO or the security
Not a
officer.
problem at all. We love it when you chime in.
Oh, absolutely. This is an interactive deep dive.
So to clarify, you want us to role play a little bit.
We can certainly accommodate that.
We're taking that dive into information security.
Right, but we can structure the rest of the conversation like a kind of focused interview.
I can absolutely take the host role and focus on drawing out the interesting points from our source material.
And I will happily step into the shoes of the information security expert. We can use the job description and the CV as our talking points.
Perfect. So welcome back to the interview, Mrs. Security Leader.
Thank you. I'm ready to discuss the role.
Excellent. So before the break, we are about to discuss the sheer scale of the operation. You're safeguarding a platform processing over 10 million transactions every single day.
The scale is everything. Host, it's the sheer velocity of the business that really sets the standard for security.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
The platform processing that much volume every day isn't just a target. It's a living, breathing financial system.
Right. Attackers are constantly trying to break into it for money, for disruption.
Exactly. And the job description, it calls for someone who can architect the defensive perimeter for a platform of this size.
That number 10 million plus, it's not just big, it represents continuous high-speed risk.
It completely changes the game. It changes the defense strategy immediately.
If we look at your CV, you list expertise in defending platforms with 1 million plus active users.
Now that sounds similar, but moving from a high user base to a high transaction volume, well, that's a massive leap.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is that difference so critical?
That's an important question. A high user count is primarily a data storage risk. Static data, mostly.
But high transaction volume.
That means high active risk. Every single one of those 10 million transactions creates this active window.
The data is in motion, being authenticated.
Yes, that's when the system is under the most stress, and that's when a sophisticated attacker will try to exploit some tiny flaw.
So the risk, it doesn't just scale.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. So before we go deep dive, can you please give top three resume tips for the person who want to apply for this position? Thanks.
We love this question. Yes, let's absolutely pivot for a moment to those top resume tips.
That's incredibly practical. If we connect this to the bigger picture of our source documents, we can pull those 3 tips directly from the CV itself.
Okay, let's unpack this for our listener. Tip number one, based on the CV's professional summary.
You need to quantify your impact, focusing on scale and threats. Don't just say you did security. State you secured platforms with 1 million plus active users.
Exactly. The CV says high-scale e-commerce ecosystems. Use their language. Use those big numbers.
Tip 2, highlight the specific, sophisticated threats you neutralized. The CV lists defending against DDoS, SQL injections, and API vulnerabilities.
You need to show you've been in the fight, not just patching, but actively mitigating those advanced threat vectors.
That shows the hands-on expertise the role demands.
And tip three, and this is the most critical non-technical skill, show how you influence change.
The candidate mentions translating complex threat vectors into actionable concepts for engineering teams. That's golden.
That proves you can bridge the technical details and the business outcome. Security is communication.
Excellent points. So we've covered scale, specific threats, and communication. Now let's get back to...
Oh, go for it.
Yep, excellent. So just to continue on that, could you give answer to the top three questions?
I'm delighted you want to continue.
Ah, yeah,
Could you provide answer to the top three questions in the typical interview of a CISO, security advisor, or pen tester?
This is a perfect follow-up. We love this.
Absolutely. We just gave you tips for the CV.
Now let's jump into the interview room.
And we can predict those top 3 questions based on the job description's core requirements.
Okay, let's unpack this. Question one is definitely about that scale we just discussed.
It has to be. They will ask, how do you architect a defensive perimeter to protect against sophisticated breaches across 10 million daily transactions?
That immediately tests your technical and strategic thinking.
Your answer needs to demonstrate knowledge of high concurrency systems and real-time threat intelligence.
You must show you understand the difference between protecting static data and protecting a financial pipeline.
The second question is going to focus on compliance and trust.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You've got global standards like PTI DSS and GDPR.
The question will be, describe your process for maintaining level 1 compliance, specifically within a high-speed, high-concurrency environment.
That's where you mentioned the security by design culture.
Exactly. You empathize that you are proactive, right? Just reactive.
You stop problems before the code even goes live.
And the third question will target your leadership and communication skills.
They need someone who can translate complex technical risk into business terms.
So they will ask, how do you translate complex threat vectors into actionable concepts for engineering teams and present risk to the executive board?
This checks for that golden skill, bridging the technical and the business outcome. Security is communication.
Those 3 scale and architecture, compliance and trust and communication are the pillars of the job description.
That was an excellent
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Yep, excellent. So just to follow up on this, what is the typical blind spot for your role in software development?
This is a phenomenal, insightful question.
Oh, absolutely. This raises an important question about integration.
Okay, let's unpack this blind spot.
If we look at the job description, the expectation is enforcing a security by design culture.
But the blind spot often arises when that culture isn't fully integrated.
Exactly. The typical blind spot is assuming security can be bolted on at the end of the development cycle.
Waiting for the final pen test before deployment.
But for a platform handling 10 million transactions, that's far too late.
The CV shows the candidate understands this.
They mention proactively identifying vulnerabilities in checkout flows and API integrations before deployment.
So the blind spot is skipping that proactive step.
It's failing to integrate the security auditor and the pen tester right into the initial architecture review.
That means the architectural...
Oh, go for it.
Excellent, excellent. So any other typical blind spot you want to mention?
That's a great request. Yes, let's explore another critical blind spot.
Okay, let's unpack this second major risk area.
Another common blind spot, especially in fast-paced e-commerce, is compliance fatigue.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
When you're growing fast, you focus on features and speed.
And compliance becomes a checkbox, not a continuous process.
Exactly. The job requires enforcing global standards like PCI DSS and GDPR.
The blind spot is thinking that getting certified once is enough,
But the platform is constantly changing. New APIs, new checkout flows.
and the risk level is constantly being refreshed with every new deployment.
So the blind spot is failing to embed continuous compliance monitoring.
That proactive approach is critical, which ties back to security by design.
Precisely. If we look at the CV, they meant
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So on the same line, how to catch a typical blind spot by simple observation. I'm talking about the actual coding.
Oh, this is a fantastic question.
you're asking for the immediate hands-on detection.
Okay, let's unpack this for our listener.
When you look at the code, those architectural blind spots often manifest visually.
We're talking about simple observations, especially in the checkout flows.
One major sign of a potential blind spot is the absence of security calls.
Say a lack of input sanitization near a database query.
That's a huge sign of potential SQL injection vulnerability,
Another simple observation, do you see hard-coded secrets?
like API keys or credentials directly in the source code.
That's a classic mistake, indicating a security-last approach.
The bolt-on security blind spot we discussed.
For a high-concurrency payment gateway, you look for transaction logs.
If sensitive data, even masked, is being logged unnecessarily,
That immediately violates compliance standards like PCI-DSS.
and it screams compliance fatigue, the second blind spot.
So by simple Oh, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. What are the typical risks you have identified in your role in software development?
We love this question.
You're pivoting from general blind spots to specific identified threats.
That allows us to zoom in on the specific risks the job description mentions.
Exactly. If we look at the CV, it lists 3 major threat categories.
These are the risks that someone in this role must eliminate.
First, we have distributed denial of service, or DDoS attacks.
That's a huge risk for any high concurrency platform.
It threatens availability. If the site is down, transactions stop.
You lose trust in millions of dollars immediately.
Second, the most classic application level risk, SQL injections.
This targets that lack of input sanitization we just discussed in the code.
It's how attackers exploit the live transaction window.
And the third major risk, which is often a blind spot itself, are API vulnerabilities.
As platforms move toward microservices, every API endpoint is a potential doorway.
Especially in checkout flows where data is actively moving.
Proactively identifying those vulnerabilities is a core task in the job description.
So those 3 DDoS, SQLi, and API flaws are the typical high priority risks.
And if you recall, this. Yep, go on.
Excellent, excellent. Could you give a simple and realistic example of dividing a big task in smaller tasks for your role?
That's a great request. You're asking how to operationalize the defense.
You want to see how we break down a big security goal.
Exactly. Let's use the API vulnerability risk as our example.
That's one of the top 3 risks we just identified.
A fix all API vulnerabilities task is too massive.
Okay, let's unpack this into smaller, actionable steps.
The first small task. Audit the top 3 most used checkout flow APIs.
Focus on the high concurrency payment gateways first.
Then, task 2. For those APIs, implement automatic rate limiting thresholds.
This directly mitigates the risk of a DDoS-style flood on that endpoint.
Task 3. Conduct dedicated penetration tests on those 3 APIs.
Specifically searching for unauthorized data exposure or SQL injection points.
This moves from strategic threat identification to hands-on execution.
It shows you move from a CISO strategy to a pen tester action.
And that ties directly into the security by design culture.
You are proactively identifying vulnerabilities before deployment.
That's a simple, realistic way to tackle a huge security goal.
That's how the candidate proves they can handle the scale and the speed. We've covered those risks.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so apart from this API vulnerability, anything at a broader level could you mention?
Oh, absolutely. This is a great transition.
You're asking us to broaden the threat landscape beyond code.
Okay, let's unpack this for our listener.
If we connect this to the broader strategy of the job,
One major risk at that broader level is regulatory and trust risk.
right, we talked about compliance fatigue being a blind spot,
The actual risk is losing the ability to transact globally.
failing to enforce global compliance standards like GDPR or PCI DSS.
That's a huge, broader risk that shuts down the storefront.
Another broader risk is organizational.
We mentioned that security is communication.
The risk is the failure to translate technical risk into business terms.
The board can't approve budget if they don't understand the threat.
The CV specifically addresses this with the concepts for engineering teams.
So those are two crucial broader risks: compliance failure and communication failure.
Excellent. We've covered those risks, the code observations, and the blind spots.
And back to our listener. What's up?
Yep. So I'm sure there will be a lot of failures when in your role.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, just to complete. So I'm sure there will be a lot of failures in your role. So how do you convince this failure to stakeholders?
Oh, this is a brilliant follow-up to our discussion on organizational risk.
That is an important question. You've hit on the essence of security leadership.
Okay, let's unpack how a CISO presents failure.
You're absolutely right. Security is not about achieving zero failures. That's impossible at this scale.
It's about how quickly and transparently you respond when an incident occurs.
The key here is turning a technical failure into a business-driven learning opportunity for stakeholders.
When you address the board, you don't use technical jargon.
You relate the failure directly to consumer trust and revenue.
For example, if a DDoS attack succeeds, you frame it not as a packet surge.
You call it a failure in maintaining the 99.99% availability goal.
You quantify the business impact in lost transactions or regulatory fines.
Then you pivot immediately to the lessons learned and the proposed fix using those concepts we mentioned.
This proves you've learned from the failure and are now stronger. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so I got it. Now follow-up is, what is the impact of this AI on your real productivity?
That is a phenomenal and highly relevant question.
Okay, let's unpack the impact of AI on the security role.
If we connect this back to our source material, especially the scale.
Remember the 10 million transactions daily. That's where AI shines.
AI is rapidly becoming indispensable for threat detection.
It boosts productivity by automating the analysis of that massive data flow.
A human cannot possibly spot the one malicious packet.
But AI models, they excel at pattern recognition in real time.
This directly relates to achieving that 99.99% available. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned about the typical one packet to identify. Could you expand more on this?
That is the perfect point to expand on.
We love this follow-up question.
When we talk about the one malicious packet, we are describing the needle in the haystack.
Okay, let's unpack this with a visual.
Imagine 10 million daily transactions.
That's a fire hose of perfectly legitimate traffic.
The one malicious packet is often designed to look legitimate.
It's an authorized request, but maybe with a slightly malformed header.
Or it's a piece of data intended to exploit an SQL injection vulnerability.
It's hiding within the massive high concurrency stream.
AI's productivity impact is that it allows the system to recognize that.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, what kind of a header are we talking about here?
That is a phenomenal question.
We can absolutely zoom in on that technical detail.
When we reference a malformed header, we are talking about a common attack technique.
Okay, let's unpack this specific flaw.
An attacker might modify a specific field in the HTTP header.
Maybe altering the length or encoding.
This is often done to try and confuse a poorly configured firewall or server.
For instance, trying to perform a buffer overflow.
That's a classic application level attack.
Or sometimes they inject malicious input right into a standard header field.
Like adding part of an SQL injection command into the user agent string.
That one specific packet looks mostly normal.
But the AI recognizes that subtle difference immediately.
The machine learning models spot deviations from the normal pattern,
It instantly flags that one packet as suspicious.
where a human analyst would absolutely miss it in that high volume.
This
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. So could you explain or walk me through a day in the life of a CISO or security auditor or a pen tester?
That is a phenomenal request. We can absolutely walk you through that.
We've been role-playing the interview, so let's use that perspective.
A day in this role, especially at this scale, is about prioritizing risk.
It's less about hands-on coding and more about high-level strategy and auditing.
The CISO starts the day reviewing reports from the AI systems.
Specifically looking at the threat intelligence on those 10 million daily transactions.
They are checking for unusual traffic patterns or spikes.
They are ensuring the 99.99% availability goal is being met.
The middle of the day is often strategic.
Meetings with the engineering team to enforce security by design.
They're reviewing architecture plans from new checkout flows.
Proactively identifying vulnerabilities before deployment, remember.
They are translating complex threat vectors into those actionable concepts.
This directly prevents those coding blind spots we talked about earlier.
As a security auditor, the focus shifts to compliance.
They're constantly maintaining PCI DSS Level 1 compliance.
That means auditing data handling procedures and logging practices.
The day often ends with translating complex risk for the executive board.
Turning technical failures into learning opportunities for stakeholders.
It's continuous monitoring, strategic planning, and clear communication.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Alright, so I just want to take this moment to thank you, both of you, and because it's end of the day, so have some coffee or tea. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate you sticking with us.
And we hope that